Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I'll be showing you how I made this beautiful steampunk wedding cake. I did this for one of my clients. It has a lot of details, handmade roses, handmade everything, so let's get started. I started off by having 3 8-inch round cake. They were filled with Italian meringue buttercream, which I flavored almond. I cover my cake in chocolate ganache, smoothed it out with my bench scraper, and then take the excess off. Did the same thing for my top tier. Then I started carving. You want to start carving off any excess, and you want to make like an hourglass shape to make your top hat. After that, I noticed that it was too tall, so I just cut the top off, which I'm gonna save for later. And then I fixed it a little bit more, carving it a little bit more, and then I finished off by covering it again with chocolate ganache. Used my little piece of acetate sheet to smoothen it out and take the excess off and put them to chill. Right here, as you guys can see, I'm working on my feathers. I'm using my Wilton leaf impressor, which has like an indent in the back, which is really awesome. You just rolled out anything you want to put a wire in it, and it makes that little excess of fondant coming up. And as you guys can see, I'm using a wheel fondant tool to make like some lines. I put my wire in, and then I kept working on my feather. You want to make sure that you really make a lot of lines and make it like really thin to make it more realistic. Here I made some cuts to make it even more realistic. The feathers are made of chocolate fondant, and I put some tylose powder so they can dry really hard. I grabbed my piece of aluminum foil and put them to dry. And as you guys can see here, I have my mold of buttons. So you just put a blob of fondant and press it and then take it out. Here I'm using my rolling pin with my 2 rings. I want all of my gears to be the same thickness. And I'm just playing around with circle cookie cutters, circle piping tips. Just use your imagination. And as you guys can see here, I didn't center my circle enough, so I just fixed it a little bit, taking excess off from the other side and then fixing it again with the big circle cutter. And I just kept poking and playing around, looking at it. If I didn't like it, I would put another hole. And those little circles that I cut out, I'm gonna save because I'm gonna use them for my top hat. And here I'm gonna show you guys all of the details that we made on the gears and buttons. I just brushed them with a little bit of shortening and then brushed them with gold and silver luster dust. I didn't paint them completely because I didn't want them to look new or anything. I wanted them to have that unique and, you know, mechanic kind of look, so I just went with not brushing the whole area. Just make some little dots and then just smeared it in with combining both, or just having a gold or just having silver. And as you guys can see here, I'm starting to work on my pocket watch. So I just made a thick circle. I measured my white space to paint my numbers, and I put it on, and then I just rolled out a little rope and put it around. As you guys can see here, I'm putting a toothpick in, and I ruined the white part, but then I thought, oh, this is great. I'm just gonna, blend it in with a little bit of water. That way the white part doesn't look as white, and it'll look kind of old and brownish and antique. So I thought it was cool. Then I just made a blob to the top, and I used 2 piping tips to make the ring, the little round ring, and I put a little piece of aluminum foil so it doesn't dry out bending, it dries out sticking up. So now I'm using a really fine paintbrush. I am really bad at this because I shake a lot, so it took me a long time to do this. I was using my phone to see a picture to know where all the numbers were, and I just paint them on with a little bit of Blackfoot coloring. And here are my dried feathers. I was gonna put them on the cake black, but then I thought they didn't have anything that pops up, so I just brushed them with a little bit of luster dust. Here I had these flowers already made weeks ago, so I just brushed them with a little bit of black luster dust. I'm using here the Wilton flower cutters. Use the big rose fondant cutter, and you just want to thin out the edges of each petal. You want to put them on your pink mat, which has a hole, and I had pre-made flower buds already. You just want to work with one, wrap it around the bud, make sure you don't see the red, and then you want to wrap the opposite one until you have like a really tiny rose. Then for the second layer, you want to do the same, but then you want to work out one petal like clockwise. Just close one petal, close the other one, and just overlap them around. Then for the last layer, you want to take a toothpick, do the same, thin out your petals, and you want to take a toothpick and just roll them to the back. And then when you put it on, you want to put one petal, and then you want to keep it open to put inside the next petal. You want to put one petal, leave it open, the next one goes inside, leave it open, the next one goes inside, leave it open, the next one goes inside, and just overlap them. And you just want to pinch the bottom and dry them upside down so the petals don't open up again. Then here, my top tier, I just brushed a little bit of vanilla extract. That way it will give me like an ivory type of color. And then I made some stroke with the plastic brush with brown food coloring so it can look like it's stained or old fabric. And then I rolled out a piece of my chocolate fondant and then put it around the cake board. Here I'm made the same. I made a rope, I flattened it out, and I'm using my hard fondant pincher. It pinches the fondant so it made this really cool indentations on the fondant. Here I made some strips and I did measure them to make them even spaced. Then I'm putting some details on the top so it can be like leather fabric or something. Then I put my buttons on the bottom, and then I use the same little dots that we cut out from the gears. I put them on top and then I paint them gold. And as you guys can see here, I'm making like a little rope for my bottom tier. I just pinched it with a circle fondant pincher and made an indentation in the middle with a piping tip. My camera died. It is really stressful when I don't have my batteries full or anything, so I have to wait, and my fondant was drying, so I made the lines, and I made some lines to make it like a metal panel and just poke the fondant with piping tips to make the little circles. I'm using here airbrush. I'm airbrushing it brown so it can look like really old. I airbrushed the lines with a little bit of black to make it a little more texture, more detailed, and then I paint all of the little circles gold, and then brush it with a little bit of shortening, and then brush it again with a little bit of luster dust just to make it pop a little bit and give it like that metallic look. And then here I'm using some smoothie straws to secure my board for my top tier. I put my board in. I'm using chocolate ganache, and then I use three skewers to put my top tier in. And now I'm just putting on details. You guys can put details anywhere you like, anywhere that you feel like it's empty, you just put one on. I use chocolate ganache to stick them on, and the cake I cut out from my top tier, I saved it and I used it for in between the cakes so I can stick my flowers into, because I thought the styrofoam or foam would be too hard for me to stick my flowers in, and those are fragile. They can break easily. And as you guys can see here, this is the final product. I'm really happy with this cake. It looks amazing. My flowers look so detailed and the couple loved it. So I really hope you guys like this video. Give it a thumbs up. Please share and subscribe to my channel. And I'll see you guys next Tuesday.